Hello all, my name is Tyler,
And I'm John.
and together we are DeLone Rigging Solutions, or DRS for short.
A figure 8 knot is another knot that's pretty handy to use. Before we talk about a figure 8 knot, though, I'm going to talk about an overhand knot. An overhand knot is where you just take the rope and you cross it and you pull the tail through. Just a simple knot. An overhand knot, really easy. However, if you cinch that down and put a load on it, you may never get it out. It can become a permanent part of that rope and ruin a rope. Instead of using that overhand knot, the figure 8 is the better choice. Figure 8, you can tie, if I get turned the right way here, if you tie a figure 8, or an overhand knot, you would just put the tail through. After I cross it, this time instead of putting the tail right through, I'm going to swing it under and around the standing part of the rope again, and then I'm going to put the tail through. There's a figure 8 knot. For obvious reasons called a figure 8. But the beauty of the figure 8 knot is it is, like a bowline, is in a class of knots that will be called non-jamming, because you can tighten this really tight and then you can still fold that loop and get it out. Now, I won't say that it's impossible to jam it, but I used a tractor on the occasion when I could not get the figure 8 out. So, looking at that again, actually I'm going to toss this over here because it's a little bit easier if you've got the standing part of the rope, and it's just easier to see. So I've got the standing part of the rope going up to the, in this case, over the top of the batten. I'm going to take this. To tie an overhand knot, I would just flip it over and pull it through. To tie a figure 8, which I prefer, I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to continue to go around the standing part of the rope and drop the tail back into the loop. Now I've got a figure 8. Figure 8 is commonly used as a stopper knot because you can butt down against that loop there, and it works pretty well to stop the rope without damaging the rope and without jamming the knot. So if you have a rope through a pulley like this utility shiv, and you have to take your hands off the rope to do something else for a few minutes, if you tie that figure 8, I just tied it wrong. There we go. Tie that figure 8, then your rope is secured and can't run away from you. Another common use for a figure 8 is as an anchor knot. If we tie what's called a figure 8 on a bight, so a bight of rope being a loop of rope, or if you take a loop of rope over here in the middle of the rope somewhere and take a fold of rope, that loop there, that's a bight of rope. If I take that bight of rope and I tie a figure 8 with it, that gives me a loop in the middle of the rope. If you're going to clip onto something with the loop, like if you have a carabiner and you're going to clip it onto a tool bag, or you're going to, in climbing, if you were going to clip it onto an anchor on a climbing wall or a rock face, then you could use a figure 8 on a bight that way. However, if you're not going to clip it, if you don't have a carabiner, for instance, if you're anchoring to your harness, and you don't have a carabiner there, you don't want to use a carabiner there, you don't want the extra hardware, you want to just go straight into the ring on the harness, then you'd use what's called a follow-through figure 8 or a rewoven figure 8. I'm going to need a little more rope than that. So I'm going to tie a figure 8 up here in the middle of the rope. 3 or 4 feet in. So I've got a figure 8 there. For the rewoven or follow-through figure 8, I'm going to have a figure 8 up here 3 or 4 feet up into the rope. I'm going to come back, or my tail drops out of it. I'm going to come back up there. I'm going to pull it through until my loop is about the length that I want it to be. And then I'm going to continue to follow that knot back and just parallel the original knot. So now I've got the same thing as if I tied a figure 8 on a bite, except I can have my harness here in the loop and not have to use a carabiner. Or I can tie it into an anchor on a wall without having a carabiner. So that will be a follow-through figure 8 or a figure 8 on a bite.
Please remember that DeLong Rigging Solutions one-shot train videos are meant as general overviews. Every system is different. Every venue has different procedures. All statements made make certain assumptions about systems and venue similarities. Nothing can replace on-site training with a qualified individual. If ever you have a question or concern about rigging, do not hesitate to reach out to us or another qualified vendor in your area.